Let's bring the power to the nation. Free your mind through empowered education.
Welcome back to the Civillian Outlook podcast. I'm your host, Lwazi Makaya. So guys, I wanted to do a quick follow-up on that Chidima story. You remember, guys, on the previous episode, we discussed the Chidima story about her being South African or not being South African, her parents being South Africans or not, are they neutralized, what's their story? We have since discovered, guys, the story is developing every day, but maybe it's going to quiet down now because the Miss South Africa pageant has been finalized. But remember, I mentioned on the previous episode that her mother was allegedly, some were saying she was South African, some were saying she was a Mozambican. It comes out now that her mother has never been a South African. She's actually a lady from Mozambique who came in the country in South Africa around the year 2000, 2001, around there, when Chidima herself was still a baby, an infant. I'm not sure what age she was at that time, but her mother came into the country and acquired herself, allegedly, a citizenship through fraudulent means. Guys, so Home Affairs has come out, the Minister of Home Affairs has come out to say there is a case, there is a prima facie evidence to suggest that her mother actually allegedly bought the citizenship through fraud and corruption, obviously. You know how Home Affairs is, the officials there, lots of them are very corrupt.
An ongoing investigation by Home Affairs has found prima facie indications of fraud committed by Chidima Adetshina's mother. The Department of Home Affairs herewith provides an update on the ongoing investigation into the citizenship of Miss Chidima Adetshina, a contestant in the upcoming Miss SA event. The reason for the ongoing nature of the investigation is that its scope has broadened since the original request received from the organizers of Miss SA based on the information uncovered by Home Affairs investigators thus far. The department nonetheless provides this update to the public based on that official request and consent. We will provide a final update once the investigation is concluded. Upon receiving the request for investigation, the department deployed every resource at its disposal to establish the truth. This has included archival research, visits to hospitals, and site visits to verify information. From the information we have uncovered thus far, the Department of Home Affairs can indicate that prima facie reasons exist to believe that fraud and identity theft may have been committed by the person recorded in Home Affairs records as Chidima Adetshina's mother. Adetshina herself could not have participated in the alleged unlawful actions of her mother, as she was an infant at the time when the activities took place in 2001. An innocent South African mother, whose identity may have been stolen as part of the alleged fraud, suffered as a result because she could not register her child. The department has broadened its investigation to identify and pursue any officials involved in the alleged scheme and is obtaining legal advice on the implications of the alleged fraudulent activity on Adetshina's citizenship status. And finally, upon the completion of the investigation, Home Affairs intends to press criminal charges and convict all implicated parties. This case, which stems from alleged fraudulent activities committed 23 years ago, highlights the urgent need for the digital modernization of Home Affairs applications, adjudication and verification processes to insulate the department against fraudulent interference, similar to the reforms undertaken at the South African Revenue Service in the late 2000s. The case also highlights the reason for the department's blocking of certain duplicate IDs and that the court-ordered unblocking of these documents must be handled with caution. Throughout this process, Home Affairs is guided by our commitment to both restoring and upholding the rule of law as well as the rights of all parties.
We will see how it develops. We're still waiting for further details on that. But her mother is not South African. Her father is not South African. So shortly after that came out from Home Affairs, I think exactly the day later, Chidima Adetshina decided to withdraw from the Miss South Africa pageant. She on a social media page, if you go on a social media page, you'll see that she then made a statement to say she's withdrawing from the Miss South Africa pageant, citing safety for her family. Well, if you ask me, civilians, I don't know if she's worried about the safety or she's worried that many things now are about to come out. I think the strategy of pulling out, maybe she should have done that much earlier. Honestly, maybe some of the things that are coming out now would not have come out. Had she pulled out of the Miss SA contestant and just quietly move away from the whole story, maybe the story was not going to develop now. Home Affairs is picking up things now. As she's citing on a statement where she was withdrawing family safety and so on. No, I don't know what the civilians think. Please tell me, drop on the comments what you think. I think one of the main reasons that she's pulled out, obviously, once investigations are concluded and are being done, there's a lot that's going to come out from there. So many more things that might be discovered, you know. So now I think she's trying to move away. She's trying to move the limelight away from her family, especially her mother, because her father has always maintained that he is a Nigerian man who came in South Africa for the World Cup and so on and so on. You know, so we'll see how the story develops. Sure, she has pulled out. Some are not happy that she's pulled out, especially those that were supporting her. You know, most celebrities in the country and others and other public figures who were supporting her, some of them are not happy that she has pulled out. They feel that she was bullied out and so on. She should have maintained and carried on to contest the Miss A pageant. What is more even interesting now, some are even saying now, if you go to the socials, some are saying now, look who has won. Remember, Miss South Africa has just been finalized and a lady by the name of Leroux, a white lady for that matter. Some are saying, so what was the point of us or those who were fighting against Chidima? Was it for a white lady to win the Miss A pageant? Do you call that justice? Civilians tell me, is it justice that an African lady had to pull out and now a white lady has won the pageant? Tell us in the comments, civilians, tell us what you think. Do you think it was justifiable? But she was feeling a lot of pressure. Her family, even her father, I think he was also getting spotlight as well. Obviously, other things were coming out. Remember, he said he came in 2010 and she's 23. But if he came in 2010, she's supposed to be 14. So maybe all of those things are all the reasons that has made her family to maybe convince her behind the scenes to say, no, pull out. So you remember I mentioned DJ Sbu. You'll find his clip where he's apologizing. Remember, DJ Sbu came out forcefully to defend Chidima. He came out guns blazing. There's even a clip of DJ Sbu. Actually, there was a clip that DJ Sbu was doing with Chidima where they were promoting his More Fire drink. You know, so I think that's one of the reasons why DJ Sbu actually was supporting her so much. You know, it's one of the reasons. There could be others. I'm not saying it's the only reason. But then the guy came out, humbled himself, apologized. There's a clip. Please catch the clip, guys, where DJ Sbu is actually apologizing to say if there's been any fraud or if there's any criminal elements that have been done, the law must take its course. He apologizes to everyone that he could have offended.
People are saying, man, I'm sounding arrogant. I just want to say I've never been arrogant at all. I'm a proponent of advocating for young people's success, young people going for their dreams. I've never been anybody that would give out intentionally, but in an attitude of arrogance. I humble myself as the law is taking its course. Anybody that I might have offended with any of the things that I might have said on my social media regarding the Miss SA matter, I would like to apologize. With no excuses. I'd like to apologize. I'm also a South African and I love young people. I love young people doing great things, and I'll always advocate for young people going for their dreams. But other than that, if the law has been broken, let the law take its course. But anybody that I might have offended out there, I would like to apologize unreservedly.
DJ Sbu at least is a man about it. Came out, surrendered, apologized. And when he was apologizing as well, he said, without any reservations, without any arrogance, he fully apologized. So guys, at least let's give him his props for that. Even those who were calling for his drink to be banned, I think they can let things go away or or they can stop with that. I don't know, because if the guy is apologizing, you should at least accept his apology. Okay, so Gayton McKenzie, as you know, he's been part of the story. Gayton McKenzie and his PA, his political party, the Patriotic Alliance, him and his deputy president have been on the news. As soon as the news broke out from Home Affairs, where they were saying there is prima facie evidence to suggest that there is an alleged fraud that took place, identity theft, because there's that element now, identity theft by Chidima's mother. Chidima herself, she could have not done any fraud. She was a baby. She had nothing to do with it. But unfortunately for her, she's the one who's suffering the most. So there's a possibility of identity theft. It's developing. We'll see. Gayton McKenzie came out to say, yes, he's vindicated because he was getting a lot of slack. He was being called names and so on. That is xenophobic and so on. Why is he bashing and coming out after a young African lady who hasn't done anything wrong? Maybe her parents have done something wrong, but definitely she hasn't done anything wrong. But Gayton is having none of it. He's saying only South Africans must compete for the Miss South African pageant. So Chidima looks like he was never eligible to contest. And Gayton is sticking to his story. So Gayton is not having any of it. Saying South Africans, no imposters, must come and participate in a platform where South Africans must participate and represent us. Guys, civilians, you tell me what you think. Do you think Gayton McKenzie is vindicated? Were you one of those who are supporting him from the start with this saga? Are you one of those that are still sticking with him? Him and his deputy president are having none of it. So guys, so drop a comment on the comment section. Tell us what you think, guys. I wanted to also have a look at the following story, guys. MK Party, the newly formed MK Party, guys. You remember I mentioned something about ZUMA and the MK Party when ZUMA was being expelled in the previous episode. So now, the MK Party has decided to actually fire 18 MPs. Some are saying 20 MPs from Parliament. Hey, I don't know what's happening there. Ayubaba, ayungamalala kumele update ukuthi kwenzakalani in his party. Structures are up in the air. There are no structures in that organization, apparently. Allegedly, he's the only one taking decisions. Some are saying, through his daughter, Tutuzile Sambudla Zuma, that some of the decisions have been taken by her. She's firing anyone she doesn't like. If she thinks that you're a threat, you are fired. If you are close to her, you are in a good place. So the MK has decided to fire 20 or 18 MPs from Parliament, guys. It's huge, guys. You remember, on the 29th of May, 2024, just recently, about 2 months ago, we had elections. People were sworn in soon after that. People became MPs. About 18 MPs of the MK Party were sworn in. They became MPs. You know, being an MP comes with all the perks. You get those allowances. I don't know if they get car allowances, but there are many allowances that you get as an MP. You get housing in Cape Town. You're traveling. You have a good life, basically. You have it made if you're an MP. You live a soft life. So can you imagine, you only become an MP for just over a month, almost 2 months, and then suddenly you are fired. This is okay like MK. I can tell you now, many of those MPs, they can never be happy. When I was listening to Tlamulo Ndlela, the spokesperson of MK, he was saying, no, they were being infiltrated by some of these MPs. They've got rogue elements in the party. Remember that there were some leaders in the MK that were also expelled from the organization. Some of the names that were made the list were part of the list fraudulently. Guys, civilians tell me, I don't buy it. I don't understand it. Let me say, I don't understand it. How can you have a list of MPs going to Parliament and most of those 18 MPs of them were not supposed to be on the list? How? They were being sown in front of everyone. You can't then, how can you then come and say to us, no, these 18 MPs, so there are some of them we were not supposed to be on the list. But the list was public with the IC. Everyone knew who was on the list. Everyone knew. No, civilians, something fishy is there. Something is fishy. But you will see the story is definitely going to develop. Even the ISG, their Secretary General. At first, he resigned. Then he came back. Then he was apparently fired. Their Secretary General from the MK. So there's a lot. You remember their original president, Mr. Kumar, was also fired from the MK. So people are getting fired at the MK, left, right, and center. Now it's the MPs. But it's going to develop. I'm telling you now, those MPs are not going to be happy. And allegedly, 2 of those MPs had applied for car allowances or for car finance, and they were approved. Can you imagine? You get a job, you buy a car, and a month later you are told you are fired, you no longer have a job. Yo, asiyakhala ku-MK, but sizozwa ungcamalala ukuthi uthini, sizozwa ukuthi uNhlamulo Ndlela uthini. We'll wait, but this story is going to develop. I'm telling you, there are many more things that are going to come out from this story. Watch the space. So civilians, hit us up on the comment section. Tell us what you think about these MK 18 MPs that were fired. But there's a twist to the story. After these MPs were fired, then there's a new list. Obviously, those MPs have to be replaced by the MK. They have to send a new list to the Speaker of Parliament to say, this is the new list, these are the new MPs that are going to have to be sworn in again, replacing these old MPs. Guess who's on the list? ZUMA lieutenants, ZUMA loyalist, Brown Malefe is on the list, Tom Moyane is on the list. Nhlamulo Ndlela is saying Tom Moyane is not going to be sworn in, we will see. Because Tom Moyane, remember, is the former commissioner of SARS, who was very close to ZUMA when ZUMA was still president. So he's on the list, but the spokesperson of MK is telling us Tom Moyane is not going to be sworn in. We will see. This is politics. Anything is possible. I still believe that Tom Moyane possibly will be sworn in. Siyabonga Gama, the former disgraced Transnet executive, you'll remember him. He was the CEO of Transnet at one point. He's on the list. He was a ZUMA loyalist. So he's on the list. So you've got Brian Malefe, the former CEO of Eskom, who, according to the state capture, allegedly was working with the Guptas at that time. Allegedly. So guys, please don't say I said it for a fact. Allegedly. He was part of state capture. He was doing bidding for the Guptas and ZUMA. Now he comes. He's on the list. So if you look at the trend, guys, look at the trend. Look at how it's happening. Remember, Judge Hlophe is the chief whip of the MK party. You remember he was impeached for allegedly trying to influence constitutional judges to make a judgment on that was going to favor Jacob Zuma at the time. He was impeached, lost his job, he's no longer a judge. He's Dr. Hlophe. He's called, he wants us to call him Dr. Hlophe. Dr. Hlophe. He's leading MK party in parliament. Brian Malefe, Siyabonga Gama, Tom Moyane, all guys who were close to ZUMA, all guys who were very close to ZUMA, they are all now getting recognized, they are becoming MPs. I know for a fact that some of them have been struggling, obviously, with jobs. Obviously, everyone needs to make a living. Their names are tarnished. I know for a fact that Tom Moyane's name is tarnished. It's going to be difficult for him to get any other job now, any top executive job. So obviously, they have to eat. So ZUMA needs to look out for them. But what is interesting is these guys, we never saw them on the campaign trail for MK party when they were campaigning for the elections. We never saw Brian Molefe on the streets. We never saw Siyabonga Gama on the streets. Civilians. So these guys are benefiting as a result of people who were campaigning for the MK party, who was fighting for the MK party to garner votes. These guys now, they are suddenly replacing those MPs. And I believe that most of those MPs that were being replaced were busy on the campaign trail. That is why I'm saying that this story is going to develop. There's a lot of unhappy people that are going to be at MK. Well, now suddenly you are being replaced by Brown Molev, who was not hitting the ground during the elections. You tell me what you think, civilians. Is that fair? Is that fine? Are you maybe some MK party members can hit us up on the comment section, tell us what's happening in their party. They know better than us. We can only speculate. But we are just seeing what's happening on the news, and we are finding that some of these stories are very interesting. Very, very interesting. Hit us up, civilians, on the comments. Tell us what you think. Is the MK going to survive this? Is this going to be one of those parties that after a short while, they start dwindling, the numbers are going to drop? We will see. But we wish him all the best. We wish him all the best. On the last story that I wanted us to discuss on this episode, civilians, it's just a small thing that I found interesting. You know, most SC, Senior Counsel Ngcukaitobi, Advocate Ngcukaitobi, he recently held a lecture where he was talking about the various topics, various issues on politics and so on. But what I wanted to discuss with civilians, just quickly touch on it. He spoke about the land question. You remember he's a big advocate of the land question in the country, to say how we were the African natives were dispossessed of land in the country. Justice must be done. I mean, at one time he was actually an acting judge on the land court. Yeah, the land court. He was an acting judge as well, where he was also trying the best that he could to bring about transformation on the land question. But what he said, what I found very interesting is that on the land question, he mentioned the issue that the transformation of land or the distribution of land during the presidency of Mandela and Thabo Mbeki, that's when it was mostly done. During the presidency of Mandela and the presidency of Thabo Mbeki. That's when land distribution and trying to fix the land question, to try and attend to it. It was during those two administrations that the land question was being addressed. But from the Jacob Zuma administration, the land issue then started dwindling, or it started being less addressed. So it's interesting because if you listen to what Zuma says and talks about, especially now that he is the president of the MK party, one of the main things that he advocates for, amongst others, is the land question. They are saying the land must be brought back without compensation and so on. The very same stance that the EFF is having. But what is interesting, when Advocate Ngcukaitobi on his lecture, he says, if you look at the facts, it's there. In Zuma's administration, remember Zuma was a president for about 9 years. He almost had 2 terms, so he had plenty of time to address the land issue. But now, as politics goes, Masakvulu MK party, we are being told about the land issue. I found it very, very, very interesting. I found it very interesting, guys. So hit us up on the comments. Tell me what you think. The land issue, Zuma's tenure as the president, the land question was not being addressed properly, but it was being addressed during the Thabo Mbeki and the Mandela era. He even went further to say Cyril Ramaphosa as well, the current president of the country, on the land issue as well. It's not being addressed. Well, with Cyril Ramaphosa, we know he will run away. He runs away from those these difficult topics like the land question. But Zuma has never been afraid of anything. It's interesting that during his tenure, he was not addressing the issue of land. But now he comes and says the land must be given back to its rightful owners. Yes, we want the land to its rightful owners. But then why didn't he do anything about it during his presidency? Tell us, civilians, what you think about it. Any MK party members, tell us what's your view on this, on the land question. Ngcukaitobi, I'm not going to go into details. He said a lot of things there, guys. So I just wanted us to just to open our minds a bit, especially on the land issue. Yeah. So civilians, thanks for keeping it locked. Subscribe, share, keep it locked. We'll see you on the next episode. We hope you enjoyed the episode.